Thank you for tuning in to No Sudden Moves Radio. And remember, stay on the proven path so you don't risk falling behind. Here at Business Legends, we don't overthink it. Look around and see what everyone else is doing. If it's working for them, it will work for you.
Welcome to Wait It Out, where we believe there's no reason to act now. The opportunity will still be there when the timing is better.
The age of disruption isn't coming, it's here. And the boldest move isn't following the crowd, it's following your why. I'm Patrick Ledden, and you're listening to Disruption Lab. All right, folks, welcome to Disruption Lab. My name is Patrick Ledden. I'm so excited to spend some time with you today. Actually, in today's interview, I'm going to talk to Jim Murphy, and I actually just finished recording that interview. I think it's a really interesting discussion. This is not a me interviewing him. This is a dialogue between two people. He's talking about his latest book, The Best Possible Life. We also talk about his past book, Inner Excellence. And we use those books and his tools and experience to actually share with me some things to consider about my own life. I hope as we go through that, you see it not just as, oh, Jim's examining Patrick or helping Patrick look at some things in his life. I hope you think about, well, what if Jim was asking me these questions, or how might I respond to them in my answers, ultimately with one thought in mind, to help you deal with the disruptions in your life so you can live your best life possible. I mentioned to him in the conversation that I'm traveling a lot in the coming weeks. I bet you have a lot going on as well. In the next several weeks, I'll be in Arkansas, Miami, San Diego a couple times. I think I'm back out in Salt Lake City. I'm doing several virtual events. I've got a bunch of things going on, no different than you. And Jim just helps me unpack them and think them through a little bit. So I encourage you to listen to this podcast, take some notes, consider what's going on in your world and how you can live the best possible life. And I also encourage you to pick up a copy of his book. So let's take a listen to my conversation with Jim Murphy. Hey, Jim, so good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, likewise.
I think last time we got together, actually we recorded an episode together for last season of the Disruption Lab, and I've never had somebody come back to any of my podcasts in the past. So the idea of having you come back for a different conversation just made sense. And I don't know if it's necessarily a different conversation. I'd say it's probably a deeper conversation, because last time we talked about the work you did with Inner Excellence and kind of how that thing just took off overnight one time and just impacted so many people's lives. And this time we're talking about your current project, The Best Possible Life. And as I thought about the idea of going from a bit of performance to purpose, maybe that's not the right way to frame it, but as I was thinking about that, I would imagine that in your mind, it's actually we're building something a little bit deeper, a little bit different than in the past. Is that fair? I mean, kind of what led you to write this one?
Yeah, the Inner Excellence, what led me to write that was I wanted to put together a manual for mental toughness and poise under pressure. And it turned in, and what I realized after the 5 years of full-time writing and research, that it's not just for athletes, it's for all of us. And anyone that has a mind that has negative thoughts and limiting beliefs and a heart that wants to live fully and a culture that obsesses about things that are temporary and surface level, it's for anyone in that situation. And this book, and so that book is over 300 pages and like I said, 5 years of full-time work on it. This book I was on a boat in 2023, and I was just thinking about all of the dissension in America and all of the fear, and I thought, God, what can I do to help out? And I felt God say to write this book on how to live the best possible life and how to live a spiritual, meaningful, heart-led life. And I'm a Christian, and what that Christian life is like, and because in America, there's one poll that showed that 79% of Americans identify as Christian. But what does that mean? And so I wrote this book to help people of any belief or what they might think of as non-belief. You'll read in the book that David Foster Wallace says, and I agree, that everybody worships. It's just, what do you worship, even if you're an atheist? And so, I wrote it for people to really think about their lives deeply, about what they want most, and then how to help them get it.
As you were, thinking on the boat that day or leading up to that, I would imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, Jim, but there's got to be times where you were working with, say, athletes, for example, that were on the top of their game, and you could almost sense a feeling of something else missing in their life. Because oftentimes we think, you talk about what you worship. There's certainly a part of our culture that worships athletes and athletic performance and sports teams and all those type of things. And whether they recognize that they're actually worshiping it, that's where they're spending all their time and their talent and their energy is following and doing those things. But then maybe they think that those people kind of have it all. And I would imagine that you found some that kind of did have it all and some that didn't so much have it all. Is that fair?
I think that the more more resources you have, money, possessions, etc., the more in danger you are of having less and less meaning, less and less fulfillment, less and less joy.
Yeah, there's an interesting paradox there, isn't there? Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were just talking about sometimes we have this longing, and I know you talk about kind of this longing that maybe we can't explain, but there's something in us sometimes that feels like we have to have. We're running from one thing to another, or we're so busy doing things, we sometimes don't slow down and find that kind of that peace and that connection and that meaning in life. Is it for you? Has it been? I know you went to the desert for a while. Obviously, you've been on a boat. Does it require you to go to those places to have that bit of peace and connection? Or are you able to do it over a cup of coffee, if you even drink coffee in the morning? Or what's most helpful to you?
I think I can't remember if it was Henry Nouwen that said it, but I believe he said that busyness is not of the devil; it is the devil. Maybe a little extreme, but I think it is really busyness and hurry are two things that's kind of the our culture is immersed in, and side by side with anxiety, a mind with too many thoughts from too many concerns. And if you don't have a clear plan to eliminate hurry from your life and to focus on what matters most, then you're clearly going to get caught up in this wave of busyness, especially if you have any sort of talent or motivation.
That you said in our culture just made me think, and maybe this isn't the culture specifically you're talking about, but I just thought years ago I was out teaching essentially what would be considered historically like typical time management, just about how do you identify the big goals you're working on and the roles you're fulfilling in life, and getting those essentially in your calendar and building a life around those big rocks as opposed to all the little gravel that tends to fill in our lives. And as I was going out and talking to, I was fortunate to go to a number of different countries, both in U.S. and Asia. Or obviously, U.S. is a country, but U.S., Canada, throughout Europe, and over in Asia as well. And some of these things just didn't travel quite as well when I was out talking to people. For example, in certain places, U.S. at the time for sure, there was a degree of pride sometimes that would come from, I only have so much, I only sleep so much, or I'm just too busy to do X, Y, and Z. In other places, I'd be like, that doesn't carry. So, I mean, when you talk about culture, you specifically talking about kind of the Western world culture, the U.S. culture. What are you thinking there?
It's the scourge of Western culture, busyness. And especially America, the epicenter of busyness and obsession with what I call the palms: possessions, achievements, looks, money, and status. And I work with have worked with a lot of people that are at the center of the center in that area, which I tell them regularly is, I think of America as the center of busyness and self-centeredness because of the resources that it has. You don't need to travel, we got it all here. And the golf country club is, like, in my mind, the center of that in America. this obsession. The golf country club is a place of status and a place of results, specifically your golf score and possessions and the car that you drive. And so when you're in that culture, then if you don't have a clear plan to live a meaningful, fulfilling life, a fully engaged, non-judgmentally aware life, then you're going to fall in the trap like I have.
Yeah, I think we all have to varying degrees for sure. And there's probably somebody listening right now, and maybe advice for myself too. Let's start with me. But as we're thinking about how do we reframe this idea of the best possible life when maybe historically it's been thrust upon us and we've bought into the idea that it's success, it's wealth, it's recognition. And then one day, whether you're listening to a conversation like you and I are having, or you pick up scripture or something causes you to go, wait a minute, maybe this isn't it. There's got to be that moment, as I would say, of disruption where you're like, oh my goodness, this is not it. What do I do next? Because my identity has been so baked into these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't tell people what to do. I don't really give advice. I try not to. I just tell people clarify what they want most, and I help them get it.
Okay, so give us a few good questions that they might ask themselves to try to figure through that.
Yeah, how do you want to feel? I want to know how you want to feel. Like you tell me, Patrick, how do you want to feel in your life?
For me, I think I ultimately want to feel like what I've done in my life mattered, and not just mattered in the moment, but mattered. I have 2 grandkids. I want them to, have a connection with me that lasts well beyond me in their mind and in good ways. I want to feel like things like this that I do are both meeting a need within me because I like to talk to people and learn, but at the same time, maybe it's casting a positive shadow on others. I mean, I'm at that point where I have a car. I don't need another car. It's 15 years old. I'm plenty happy with it. Those type of things just aren't for me at this point.
Okay, so you want your grandkids to find time with you meaningful. Is that what you said?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you want to leave a positive influence on the world?
Yeah, I mean, I did some work years ago, and not to be too high-centric on this, but I did some work several years ago kind of thinking about my purpose in life and what I wanted to achieve in life. And it came down to the idea that I wanted to provide ideas and insights to help other people live their good lives. So when I started looking at it that way, it kind of became easier for me to say things I wanted to say yes to and the things I wanted to say no to.
So say you got all that how you wanted. Grandkids want to spend time with you. You're helping people achieve good things. What does that do for you?
What's it do for me? I think it they're slightly related, but a little bit different. I think with the grandkids thing, part of it is probably filling a gap in my own life because I didn't have a relationship with grandparents. So the ability to give something to my grandkids that I never had, I never knew my grandparents, would probably be one thing that was important to me. I also just know for me, from a health and longevity standpoint, being around them is really good for me. It feeds me in that way. And hopefully I'll be able to impart upon them some wisdom over the years for things that that maybe I bumped my knees on in the course of my life, that maybe I can save them a little bit of heartbreak. I can't save them all heartbreak because life is tough at times, but maybe I can impart lessons learned and my faith traditions upon them as well to help them live a more effective life themselves. And then as far as, let me stop there. I heard your breath.
It's very common to ask this question. It's like, well, how do I answer that? And so with your desire to love your grandkids, one of the challenges is you want to live a meaningful, fulfilling life and have great experiences. And for you, that involves your grandkids. We're always trying to feel better. This is like the human condition, is I always want my life to feel a little easier, a little more comfortable. And for you, that can mean spending time with your grandkids. But I imagine if the grandkids are behaving poorly, it's not quite the meaning that you were hoping for. And so it can be a little bit
not my grandchildren, of course, but I can understand what you're saying hypothetically.
Right.
No, I've had the tiring moments, no doubt. Actually, those are less about their behavior and just more about my energy level sometimes.
So Yeah, it can become a little transactional when we think about how we want to live. I want to have, I want to get this feeling from my grandkids. And when I work with someone, we want to lock in how they want to feel and figure out, well, what is the bottom line? So let's say everything that you just told me, say we summed it up in that what you really want is to feel fulfilled and peace and joy. How would you describe it if we pick three words?
I think peace for sure, joy, absolutely. And I don't know if this sounds bad or not, but just what came to my mind. You want to be remembered. You want to.
This is why it's so important to go through this exact thing. And so, why do you want to be remembered? What does that give you?
Well, it gives me nothing as far as I won't know if I was remembered or not. But there is a degree of recognition that our time here on planet Earth is finite. And the idea, if I try to live a life in a way that has me be remembered in what I would consider a positive light, therefore I'm thinking just beyond the temporal moment and thinking.
So is it that you want to be remembered or you want to leave something positive behind?
We'll go with that. Yeah.
And so I try to help people clarify what they want most, because I think if we just stick with remembered and not get any farther than that, I mean, you could rob a bank and that'd be very memorable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think what you really want is you want to leave something positive behind. If we were to talk longer, I think that's likely something closer to that than just being remembered. And I think if you really want to leave something positive behind, then the most powerful thing you could do for, say, your kids and grandkids is who you're becoming, and being clear on the person that you want to become. And say it was you want to feel peace and joy and fully alive, then we would start to design your habits of thought and action throughout the day to help you get that. So you have more meaningful engagements with your kids and grandkids. And so the legacy that you leave behind is the most powerful that it could possibly be, helping you be your true self, which is clarifying, well, who is my true self? And how do I want to feel is how we start, how I always start. We lock in on how you want to feel in your life, because, most everyone wants to feel some version of what you just told me. It's very, very common. And once they realize that that's what they really want, then they're much able to grasp the negative influence of the ego, the part of our mind that's always threatened, always comparing. And how self-centeredness can really hurt you from getting those. If you want to feel alive, if you want to feel peace and joy, then self-centeredness can really take away from that, and so can judgment and the monkey mind, the clutter, the mind that's always has so many thoughts from so many concerns.
When you think about, if I would ask you the same question, what would you say are your three things, or things that you want to feel about your life?
Oh, I want to feel deep contentment, joy, and confidence in my daily walk with God, my daily experience with God. I want to feel like I'm connected to God every moment of the day. Or another way to say it is, I want to feel like I'm connected to the creator of the universe. And he's running the show, and I'm just like the errand boy. I'm just here. I'm riding along, sharing the message.
Have you gotten to a point where you feel that level of connection?
Yeah, many times. The problem is that I've gotten in the way too often.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's if you were to say yeah all the time, I'd be like, wow, I need that calculus there, because I tend to draw closer and then further away. I don't mean to necessarily do it, but something happens where I feel, there's times where you feel like in your walk you're more connected, and other times where you don't feel quite as connected.
Let's talk about, we're in March right now. We got March Madness coming up, Final Four next weekend, NBA playoffs coming up. How can those guys prepare for this big event? It's a similar idea. You have all these big events coming up in your life, and there's going to be a lot of questions and concerns and nerves and doubts. and noise and people saying things and expectations. And if you don't have a plan to regularly pull yourself out of all the noise and expectations and transactions and into a place of peace and possibility, centered and connected, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. And if you don't know how to handle feelings, it's going to be really hard. Feelings that maybe you haven't had before.
Yeah, as we were talking about that earlier today, I had a call with some people preparing for a meeting that I'm leading on Friday of this week, and I kind of have that moment. I told them, I said, I'm not anxious, and it was a bit of being vulnerable with them because I could easily say, oh, I got it all under control. But I was like, yeah, I'm not anxious that the session that I do with them won't go well, but I am anxious about what it's going to take between now and the beginning of the session to figure this out. And if I don't figure it out between now and the beginning of this session, then what I'm going to have to figure out in the throes of it to get to the other side. And there's a part of me that feels like I guess it's my March Madness in my own way, because it's like a big game on Friday with a high visibility, risk. And it's like,
it's a common thing.
I don't know how it's going to play out. Yeah.
So this book just launched, and I have a workbook now, the Inner Excellence 90-Day Challenge, a workbook for Inner Excellence. And that's due here in a few weeks. I'm flying out today to Southern California to go into a cabin for 8 days to work on it. And I just had a meeting with my spiritual mentor, Nick Osborne, and he said, can I give you an idea to think about? And I said, yeah. And he said, before you start getting into the workbook, spend the day getting connected to God, prayer, meditation. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I need. Because I was thinking, oh man, I gotta maximize these 8 days. And in fact, I just told my nephew, my 17-year-old nephew, Paul, about the two lumberjacks who are cutting down trees all day long. One guy left for an hour every day, and the other lumberjack, and he was would continue all day long. And the guy that left for an hour every day was chopping more trees down. And he's like, "Where do you go?" And he's like, "I go to sharpen the saw, and or the axe." And whatever you bring to your presentation and whatever I bring to that workbook and this week coming up is not going to be from you or me consciously saying, I just got to push to be the best I can. It's going to be from you and I surrendering to a power greater than ourselves and having the collective energy of the whole universe available to us. That's where the power is going to be.
It's interesting though, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I think that sometimes when you feel the pressure of something and you start leaning into it, well, I've done this and I've done that, or I can make it through it, or whatever it might be, you find yourself kind of at odds to that thinking that you were just exploring there, where you find yourself like, no, I've got this, I've got to hang on to this tighter. And the more you try to hang on to it tighter, the kind of more it slips through your hands. It's just it's a tough thing, especially if you feel like what's gotten you here so far is your own talent and your own brilliance and your own ability to somehow navigate through rough waters.
That's the illusion. And also it's understanding that for you to reach your potential, Patrick, you have to become someone that you've never been before. What I mean by that is you have to continue to learn and grow, which by definition is to become someone you've never been before. And so if you stop learning and growing, then then you're going to really want to think about what you've done and, oh, I got this because of what I've done. I can do this. But if your number one goal is to learn and grow, then this upcoming presentation you have is about that. And then that will help it be the best it can be.
Well, let's layer onto that then, because I just told you about the next presentation. Then you go to next Wednesday, and there's a different presentation in a different city with different executives and different expectations. And then that Friday, there's a virtual presentation. And the next week after that, there's another one down in Miami. The hits just keep coming. And if you, I don't know, for me, I've tried to work on this and get better at this, and maybe I haven't got myself oriented the right way sometimes, but I almost get myself in the disposition of, well, I'm just going to engage the next target that's closest to me and do best I can to knock that one out, and then not be anxious about the other one until it gets a little closer. But then you find yourself, it's like you're playing a video game all day long. And by the way, I love doing these things. I enjoy them. I think that what I'm doing is aligned with one of the reasons I'm here on this earth. But there's still this kind of partnership between fulfillment of purpose and this anxiety running in the passenger seat sometimes. And I've just convinced myself that I enjoy that mix. I don't know.
Well, it's cool that the hits keep coming. More enjoyable if you're a hitter than a pitcher.
Yeah. And now with the new strike zone, I mean, gosh, even if I think I throw a strike, then they're going to challenge it. And
You're right. So, that schedule you have coming up, it reminds me of the schedule that I've had this year, and even that I have in front of me. So many things happening, and if I stare at the circumstances, it can be overwhelming. And it's an amazing things like this book. It just launched, and we have a workbook that I'm working on that I think is going to be super helpful for people all over the world, and various teams that I'm working with, and so many exciting things. I will be the best that I can be if I surrender my little lollipop for the whole candy store. When I surrender my power for the power of the universe, for God's power, it won't be that good the more that I am in the way. I need to get out of the way. Selfless is fearless.
It is an interesting thought. I mean, it's so hard at times. Maybe that's just me. Maybe the listeners are going to relate to this sometimes. When we start saying, okay, I'm going to try to be self-aware and at the same time a little selfless or a little more selfless, or surrender myself. And then every sentence I start sometimes with I. And it is a really challenge. Unless you're leading a team, then you start with we, but it's still kind of even a collective self in that regard. So if I'm...
That's a great exercise in the Interactions book, the me, myself, and I exercise. Go to a social engagement, you don't know many people. Can you avoid saying me, myself, or I the whole evening, unless asked a direct question?
I do that just because it takes the pressure off me. Because if you serve it back, people will talk about themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the personality. But I think it's very common if in a social situation to want to feel better about yourself. And and so another part of that is to not say anything that will put you in a positive light. So that's part B of that two-part exercise, me, myself, and I. And so it's hard to do.
Say that second part again. Don't say anything that won't put you in a positive light. Is that how you said it?
Don't say anything that would put you in a
positive light. It would put you in a positive light. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So like in America, it's celebrated to be busy. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't say, oh, I've got this appointment, this appointment, this one. Oh, you must be successful. So you wouldn't say anything that could make you look like you're successful. So yeah, because our deepest need is for love and acceptance. And so it's a subconscious habit for most of us we meet a stranger I want. See, wherever we're walking around, our subconscious is always trying to protect us and line up our results with our beliefs. And so whenever we, in a social situation, our deepest need is for love, our greatest fear is rejection of the love. And so the subconscious, we're always looking around like, how do I fit in? Do I fit in? I don't know. I don't know what they think of me. It's this great dilemma that I talk about in The Best Possible Life. A psychologist who said, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am who I think you think I am. In other words, I know I said that quickly. I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not who I think you think I am. I am... The way I go about my day in general is what he's saying is I'm thinking about what you're thinking about me. And I'm going to try and present to you a version that's going to make you think well of me.
Yeah. Yeah. What if this conversation we had just kind of got somebody to go, that makes me feel a little restless on the inside. What they're talking about there. I think that restlessness is probably a good thing to feel in moments like this. I know I do when I have, conversations like this. Beyond getting the book, which I think they should do. What's one step you would say, like, I know you're not giving advice necessarily, but what would be some steps or things I could consider to kind of get me moving?
Well, let's look at your schedule going forward. There's going to be some tension in the next few weeks for you. What I mean by tension is there's a lot out of your control. You're going to be traveling and making these presentations, and planes could be delayed. TSAs may have long lineups, and a lot of things may not go how you want them to go. This is how life works. And when that happens, there's this tension, this feeling of discomfort. This is a part of life, this tension that comes from discomfort. So one of the disciplines of inner excellence is to what I call embrace the tension. And most people never reach their potential in life. Pro athletes, anybody, most will not reach their potential because of one major thing, and that's they have limiting beliefs. And what happens is they come to the edge of their beliefs, which is the edge of their feelings, where they're so uncomfortable in some situation that they become so afraid and tentative. They may carry on with whatever they're going to do, but it doesn't turn out well because they were so tentative and afraid. And then two things happen. One, they had such a terrible, embarrassing feeling and scary feeling, and the result wasn't good. So then now their subconscious will lock in on that, go, oh, don't ever do that again. That was too painful. It could be giving a talk or a presentation or a performance. And so most people go throughout their life and they're trying to make their life more comfortable with less pain. And that's a big mistake, because the best possible life has one foot in joy and one foot in suffering. If you want to live an extraordinary life, we need to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable, how to, first of all, understand that the best possible life involves personal growth. And that's our number one goal every day, is to learn and grow. And the only way we're going to learn and grow is through adversity. And so we need to make sure that we see the adversity and the attention as our teacher and our helper, which it is, because it's going to help you grow. And that's what we need. That's what we want.
I've been going through, this year, I'm going through the Bible in a year. And
nice.
So I don't know what, I could look at my app, tell me what day I'm on right now. We're probably 97 days or something like that. And I haven't missed a day yet. We'll see how that goes. I'll continue to commit to doing it. But there is a lot of value in marinating in thousands of years of thinking that kind of gets, and it jumps back and forth between Old Testament, New Testament readings every day, usually 4 or 5 readings. And it takes a sizable amount of time for me. I'm not the fastest reader in the world, but kind of spending some time in it, and just kind of there'll be something, whether it comes out of Proverbs or something that comes out of the New Testament, when it's said, I'm like, gosh, they wrote that for me today, and that's a really interesting thing that helps, for me at least, put things in perspective. And then things at the airport, I've learned those things don't bother me. Whether I'm reading the Bible that day or not, those things I've just learned to not let bother me. Everybody's doing the best they can, is what I just tell myself, and just move on. So there have been some things that help reduce anxiety for me. I think are really good. But then there's other things that sometimes I feel like, and maybe other people feel this way too. You get close to the edge of whatever it might be, and you, for whatever reason, you sabotage yourself. Whether you intend to do it or not, you just do something that's not helpful in our overall effort here, Patrick.
Okay, here's a situation that's super important. One is that the problem is not the problem. The problem is the state you enter when you think about the problem, when you judge it. Because you mentioned sabotaging yourself. So say you make a big blunder in some event, some presentation.
Well, it might be like it could be that, but it's also like, I know from knowing myself my whole life, there's a certain amount of things I can tackle at any time and do them extremely well. And I'll sabotage myself by signing up for too many things. And then you're in the middle of it, and I might say to my wife something joking like, she's like, well, why'd you sign up for that? And I'll be like, well, I think I got hoodwinked. And she'd be like, you did that to yourself. Nobody hoodwinked you. So that's what I mean by like that sabotage moment where you're like, why did I overcommit here?
One thing you might want to consider is do you like that idea of sabotaging yourself?
No, I don't want to particularly do that.
So one thing you might consider is because you just said that's what I do is I sabotage myself, correct?
Yeah. I mean, if I put myself in a position that undermines what I'm trying to do, and it was
so
a
that's
choice
a
I made to
belief
put myself
that
in a
you
position.
stated. What I do is I sabotage myself, and beliefs are what's running our lives. And so if you don't want to do that anymore, then what I would consider if I was you is to one, never say that again, that I sabotage myself. And if you do want to share something about your past, then you would say, in the past, I used to sabotage myself.
That's fair. That's good framing. Yeah.
Beliefs are what's running our lives, and beliefs come from everything that you think, feel, and say, and especially what you feel.
Well, awesome.
So
I appreciate
if
that.
you were to say out loud right now, and think of, because I think we've all sabotaged ourselves in so many ways.
I have in the past, Jim. I don't do it anymore.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
There you go, baby.
So, and that's what I wanted you to do with this little exercise. So if we think of sabotaging ourselves, something that we've all done in the past, I want you to do this one exercise out loud for everyone that is watching. I want you to say, in certain situations, I sabotage myself, because you'd say in the past that was true. Is that correct?
That's correct. In certain situations in the past,
Yeah.
I have done that, yes.
Okay, so what I want you to do for the last time, I want you to say it as you were before this call. I want you to say out loud, and then I want you to get the feeling that comes with when you say this. And when you say, in certain situations, I sabotage myself, and then get the feeling. Okay, can you do that?
Yes, I can. In certain situations, Jim, I sabotage myself.
Okay, and get how that feels.
Disappointing.
And then I want you to say out loud, in the past, I used to sabotage myself, and then get that feeling.
In the past, I used to sabotage myself, Jim.
And get that feeling. And is there any difference in the two feelings?
Yeah, the first one does feel a little bit like this is just who I am and what I do, and I feel a bit of disappointment in myself in saying it. Mm-hmm. The second one, it became a bit more of agency, felt stronger, but I felt like I've got the bat in my hand.
So, I mean, you're a very successful person. This is not about this specific thing. It's about understanding how beliefs run our lives and how they come from everything we think, feel, and say. Most people are spending all day long thinking about 6 or 7 categories of thoughts, and they're reinforcing limiting beliefs all day long. It's like, yep, I knew it. That's who I am. That's how I do things. And Inner Excellence has 3 main pillars. It's belief, freedom, and focus. BFF, best friends forever. And part of all those, it's believing that anything is possible. It's having the feeling of freedom that anything is possible, and the fully engaged, fully present feeling that is also, I feel anything is possible. And those 3 things are so crucial in performance and in life, and belief kind of being the number one. And so learning to embrace the tension. So especially when we make mistakes, I had one recently, this tension. When we make mistakes, in the moment, there can be real discomfort, real tension, like especially if it's in front of a big group. And it's always important to recognize that is not a problem. Everyone makes mistakes. It doesn't matter how big, and it could be in front of 1 million people. The biggest issue is, are you willing to sit with a feeling that you have right now when you're really uncomfortable? That's the key. Because if you can say, look, I'm really embarrassed, I'm really uncomfortable right now, I want to run and hide. If you get that feeling and you are willing to have the feeling and not run and hide, then your life will change.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that.
And I say
yeah.
them or you,
Yeah.
I'm talking about all of us.
Yeah, no, I get you. Totally. I totally get you. Well, hey, I hope you have, was it 8 days, 9 days in the cabin?
Yeah.
Was it 9? Is that what it was?
April 1 to 9.
1 to 9, okay, yeah. Well, day 1, we know what you're doing because you've already been told from your spiritual mentor what you should consider doing. But after that,
Yes.
you're rolling up your sleeves even more. I hope it's a good experience and a good productive time for you. And how about I shoot you a note afterwards as my BFF and say, hey, here's how I did over the last few days. Hope you're doing well too.
I would love
and,
that, Patrick.
And I guarantee you when I screw something up in the moment, which I have done in the past, which I will probably do in the future. My best mechanism is I just tend to roll with it, laugh a little bit, enjoy it. I don't really run from it that much. I do know that from doing things long enough that I tend to learn in those moments, even if they're uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's part of the journey. But there's plenty of other things that I script in my own head that I got to work on, and I imagine people listening too. Probably do as well. So, Jim, thanks so much, man, for joining today. I really wish you. I actually looked up the Best Possible Life online right before we jumped on, and it's doing really well out the gates, which is awesome.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Good seeing you again, my friend. All right, so there you have it. Conversation with Jim Murphy, kind of unpacking some of the challenges I'm facing and helping. Hopefully, you see maybe there's some things you do that sabotage what's going on in your life. I know I used to sabotage things in my own life, but not anymore. That's not who I am. But thanks so much for joining me, folks. You know, life is tough. Life is wonderful. Life is joyful. Life is challenging. And life is lived best when we put things in perspective and we take the time, as you did today, to listen and think and learn from others. That's what the Disruption Lab is all about. How do we take the curveballs in life and turn them into something positive? Thanks so much for joining me. My name's Dr. Patrick Ledden. Now go make it a great day.